Hey, it's Peck Ellis here, and I had an appointment in downtown Toronto today, and because I was a bit early, I thought I'd take a minute and just come down on Lakeshore Boulevard to kind of have a little bit of a look at Lake Ontario. I grew up around this area, and I remember, as a kid, every once in a while, my parents would take us down to this area, and we would seek out the highly coveted little barbecue thing, and my mom would bring hot dogs or something, and we'd spend a little picnic kind of thing down at the waterfront, which was really exciting. We only did it a few times a year, but it was really cool. And there was also a big pool that was in this area that I'm gonna see if I can get a picture of it for you here. And that was it was an Olympic-sized pool, and I think there was more than one pool, if I remember. I can't even remember now. But, and there was this really high diving platform. I'm not sure if you can see it there. I remember always thinking to myself, every year when we go to that pool, I would think to myself, well, maybe next year I'll be brave enough to jump from that diving board. Luckily, we moved within a few years, so I didn't have to find out that I was actually really chicken. I would have never jumped off that diving board. But probably the thing that I loved coming down here the most for was that back in the day there was Greenwood Racetrack. Now I think it was originally called Woodbine. I'm not sure, and then Woodbine moved north. I forget the history of it, but we called it Greenwood anyway. And if we were really lucky, we would see the horses being ridden, or maybe even, as we drove past, we'd see a little bit of a horse race, And the most exciting thing was sometimes if you came along, I guess it would be the backstretch, you'd actually see some of the horses' heads sticking out of the stall doors, and that was just the highlight for me, boy, to see that. That was my main reason for wanting to come down to the beaches, just because there was always that chance you might see a horse, Like, if I didn't have horses in my life, I think I would seek out water as my next thing, to kind of as a calming influence. Like, I'm really surprised, but I'm not a big swimmer. I actually don't like the water at all in that way, but I love looking at it. I love listening to it. There's something about water that's just so peaceful. And like I say, if you don't have horses in your life, sometimes you have to make do, right? So I think if I didn't have the horses, I would probably not come down to Lake Ontario, because it's a fair drive for me now from where I live, but I'd probably go to Lake Simcoe or something like that, because that's a little closer. But I recommend to everybody, if you have any opportunity, if you can't spend the time with the horses, maybe, I don't know, finding a body of water just to sit and look at. I know as I was down here today, there was all sorts of people. Some crazy Canadians were actually in the water. It's the beginning of May, for goodness sakes. And they were screaming and yelling because it was pretty darn cold, I bet you. But generally speaking, water has sort of a calming effect, I think, on people. I went a little further away from the beach part to the rockier part of the shoreline, and it's just lovely to listen, to watch the ducks and the swans and stuff. And I think, you can tell, I think people have been feeding the squirrels, because they're pretty friendly too. And it was just sort of a lovely way to spend a little bit of downtime. So I recommend it to everybody, even though Woodbine Racetrack's not here anymore. It was still a nice memory to come down here and think about my childhood a little bit. I'll show you now the only things that are left from Woodbine Racetrack, which I think is kind of nice. There's all these buildings and stuff that, you could never even imagine there were ever horses here now. But here's the little sign of appreciation for what was. We have Northern Dancer Boulevard and the Winner's Circle Road, or whatever. But little nod to the Great Northern Dancer, and I think it's kind of cool. Anyway, I hope all's well. Find yourself some peace, because sometimes we all need that in life. And remember to thank your horse, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.